And he just put an offer in on a house, 4,500 square foot lot, $275,000. Good luck in finding anything like that here. And it's just ridiculous. Like, I don't understand how anybody can live in an environment like this. And these costs that we're demonstrating right now, that I'm showing you right now, like, these costs are before we touch them. This is just what it costs to build to build these units. So we take one step further, we look at what does it actually cost to build a project, and if we actually build this project, what does it take to actually rent those units out in order to make the money back? So when we're looking at this one, the land's going to cost you about $18.1 million to buy that 1 acre lot. You're looking at $34 million for construction. Your soft costs are about $10.4 million. Your profit is 20%, and that's going to put you at about $12.5 million. Your overall cost for that one concrete tower is $75 million. For a 400 square foot unit, to make that work in the long term, to be able to charge enough for rent to be able to get your money back, the developer has to charge $1,500 a month for rent. And at $1,500 a month for rent, if that's 30% of your income, that's $60,000. That's that's not even close to $20,000. $20,000 is our goal. We are very far off. And if you look at Toronto, the same project in Toronto, exactly the same project in Toronto, will cost you $30 million to build. Your rent's going to be about $735, and the required income is going to be $29,000. Like I said, it's not $20,000, but it's a heck of a lot better, and I think the step's a little bit easier to make. So this kind of leads us to our last question. Why is it that developers need to have as much money, or why do they need to charge so much for profit? Everyone's always asking that question. Well, if you're making so much money, can't you just come back on the profit a little bit and, share a little bit more? And they're very good points. Right now, what happens is yield and risk, I think most of you guys probably understand this, yield and risk are directly related. If you'd like to have a project that's going to have a higher risk, you need to have a higher yield. That's a perfect example. If you're going to invest in a GIC, you're going to get a low return. The GICs, there's not a lot of risk involved. You know you're going to make money on that. So right now, an ING GIC is going for 4.6%, guaranteed. If you want to go with something that's a little bit more risky, like stocks, you can make a lot of money, but at the same time, there's a very good chance you're going to lose everything you put into it. Real estate is exactly like that. Real estate development is on that side of the spectrum. And so when developers are building their projects, they're really worried about how much risk is going into those projects. And the more risk you put into that project, the more money they need to make. So right now, developers try to plan to make 20% profit. I say plan because they never make their 20%. It usually ends up being about 12, and the average across Vancouver is about 12%. And the reason for that is because as you move forward, construction costs get out of control. You need change orders. There's delays in the approval process. That all cuts away your profit. And in the end, you usually end up losing about 8%. You're down at about 12. So people say to me, well, okay, well then, if you're at 12%, then how about you just perform at 12%, plan at 12%, and give us some more based on that? It's a great idea, except there's still a chance that you're going to lose that 8% because you're still planning for 12. You don't know what's going to come down the pipe. If you end up getting knocked down to 4%, that's not really a good risk environment for you to be in. If I gave you $75 million and I said, okay, you can put it into a real estate project, you might make 4%, or you might lose 2%, and that will cost you like $1.5 million. Or you can put it in ING for a year and make 4.6%. What would you do? And that's kind of the environment that we're dealing in. The reason that we need to have that 20% profit margin is because costs are going to get out of control, and we have to be able to make sure that we can mitigate all those kind of things. And so when we're talking about risk, we're talking about things like marketing and forecasting risk. Are you going to be able to sell those products at the right price? If you are looking at a price that's too high, you're not going to be able to sell those units. If you can't sell the units, you don't get the revenue. If you don't get the revenue, you're taking a loss. And the losses on these projects are in the millions of dollars. Similarly, are you building the right product? Do you have the right design out there? These are risks that you have to consider. Also, in addition to that, you're also looking at zoning and permitting. How long is it taking for this project to go through? Every day that it sits in City Hall is more expensive that the developer has to take. And finally, we've talked about construction risk. Those are those things that we really have to consider. Now, I guess this is coming back to just the key points here that I was asked to kind of go over with you guys. One more slide. So these are the things that we're trying to remember. The biggest things that are really affecting the development of more affordable housing and what's really driving up the housing costs in general is land. We have to find a way to use that land more efficiently. And I think everybody here knows that the way to use that land more efficiently is we have to go up. There needs to be more density. That's the only way we can bring down that unit cost for land. After that, the next biggest one is construction. There's ways to reduce the overall construction costs. if we take out things that are excess and that we don't need, we can reduce the overall construction costs. Do we really need that much parking? Every parking stall costs you $40,000 to build. How many parking costs can we get rid of? If we get rid of all those stalls, I think that cost is going to come down quite a bit, right? And those are just some of the things. How many extra frilly things are we putting into a development that don't need to be there that are costing these developments more? And then finally, the last one is the risk. If we would like to build let me put it another way. When you're dealing with the development, it's kind of like you're juggling all these balls in the air. If you add affordable housing to that performance, now you throw another ball in the mix, there's a bigger chance you're going to drop it all. And if that's going to happen, the developer needs to know that he's going to be able to make more money in the end. So really, the result to this is either, if you're going to increase the risk to the project by adding another partner and increasing complexity, you need to increase the yield, which of course nobody really likes. So there's got to be a way to reduce the yield, or reduce the risk. If you can find a way to make sure that the developer can feel very happy and very secure going into a project because he knows people are going to guarantee them a certain profit, you're going to have a good housing operator that's going to come in and take care of it. The developer may be willing to take a cutback on that risk and a cutback on the yield that's going to be there. So let's say, for example, the developer is willing to go from 20% to 10% profit. That's going to save you $6.5 million. On the project that we've been looking at, a $75 million project is now about $6.5 million. You still need to take up $40 million in order to get to the level that Toronto's at. And I think everybody here recognizes we're in a situation where we need everybody to come to the table. It can't just be the developers there. It can't just be the province. It can't just be the city. It can't just be the feds. Everybody has to come to the table at the same time. The public's got to be there. The private sector's got to be there. When I say come to the table, it's not, oh, I'm just going to come to the table. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to eat your food. And then after that, we're going to go chat and then I'm going to leave. Everybody who has to come to the table has to bring something to the table. Like, we're talking about $40 million in costs that have to get knocked away in order for us to be comparable with what's happening in Toronto. And we can do a lot. We can cut our profits in half if you can increase our success with the yield. But at the same time, where's the rest of the money going to come from? And everybody has to come to the table. And like I said, if we can't find a way to reduce those overall costs, and if you can't bring more money to the table, it's going to be really difficult for us to move forward. But I think there's a lot of ways out there. I think there's going to be a lot of great ideas in here on how to get that done. And I'm really excited to hear what some of the other panelists say about the development environment and real estate and affordable housing, where we're going with it. And I'm really curious to see some of the ideas that come out from everything here today. So thank you so much for your time. And